Nuuspod. Onbevange, onbegrens, onbevooroordeel.
Good day, everybody. Today I'm chatting to Brittany Smith. She's currently playing the role of Susanna in, I hope I say it right, Lenoze. Brittany, maybe you must say it.
Susanna in Mozart's very famous and beloved opera Le Nozze di Figaro, which means the marriage of Figaro.
Okay, yeah, I can say that part, but the other one is a bit more difficult. Yeah, and you're currently at the Rode Theatre playing the role, eh?
Yes, I must say, when we came from Cape Town, obviously, you know, the Artscape, or if you will, the old Cape Pab stage is quite big compared to this one. I think you can fit about 3 or 4 Rode, maybe even 6 stages on the Artscape stage.
Oh.
And when we got there, we were all a little shocked to see how small the stage actually is. However, when we started singing, we were like, oh, this is fantastic, because you don't really have to do much. You don't have to give too much, air pressure to sing. It was just fantastic. And then the fact that we could walk on the stage without, running from the one end to the other end compared to Artscape was fantastic. And I mean, the people are just so friendly and so welcoming, and it's really been such a great, trying time as well, but also because we have to get used to everyone else's dynamic, but also such a more fantastic opportunity that everybody, shares.
Oh, nice. Listen, so before the interview, I went to Google you just to get some background information. And you've got quite an impressive CV, especially in the opera world. And yeah, you've built up a name for yourself. But please tell our viewers, how did everything start for you, and how did you end up in opera?
So I told someone the other day I was completely taken by the fact that I wanted to go and do an LLB and specialize in criminal law and corporate law to see how we could merge the two. And I was really interested in how the Constitution works and stuff like that. And I remember joining the Rhenish Girls High Choir in about the end of 2009, beginning 2010. And my choir mistress, Sonia van Amstel, just told me, she's like, you've got a very natural talent for singing. It just comes. So I was like, well, I don't know where it comes from, because hardly anyone in my family is musical. I'm literally the only one that can sing like this. I know that my granny, she passed away when I was 2 months old of severe breast cancer. Oh. And I know that my mom said that she used to love listening to the RSG opera middag. And also she loved to play the piano as well. So I think maybe some of my musicality came from her. And Sonia, or rather Mrs. van Amstel, said, oh, you should try and venture into classical music. And I just looked at her and I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And I went about my day. And then she said, Choir Girls, there's a showing. This was in 2011, I think 2010, 2011. Choir Girls, there's a showing of Bizet's opera Carmen, and we've got some free tickets. Would you like to go? And I said, oh, I've never been to the theater. I've never seen an opera. Let's go. And that is where everything turned around for me. I remember when they lifted the curtain for Act 2, I think it could be Act 2, and it was just the gypsy party, and everyone was dancing, and people were singing, and the orchestra. And I sat there and I was like, this feels like I'm in a movie. Yeah. And everyone looked like they were having a ball of a time on stage. And then I told my friend, Danielle, I said to her, I was like, but I really think I want to do this now. I don't want to go study law anymore. And then I spoke to Mrs. van Amstel and I said, okay, so how do we go about? And I managed to get 6 grades of music theory passed in 1.5 years.
Yeah.
I did 6
Goodness.
grades of singing in 1.5 years. I've got my
Yeah.
UNISA qualifications for that. And then we went to go and see Professor Virginia Davids, who was my singing teacher, who I walked a very special road with. And she said, well, if you keep your grades the way that they're looking and you work hard, I think you stand a very good chance of getting in. Mind you, I never had music on high school. I never did any form of music on primary school because we just couldn't afford the after school lessons for that at that time. And yeah, I worked my butt off and I got into UCT. And just when I gave up, I thought, I'm not getting in. They haven't sent me anything. Just before registration started, I got my acceptance, and it somehow got lost in the mail and all of that. And here I am about 9 years later, singing my heart out, enjoying myself, making the absolute best memories, forging the most wonderful musical friendships and friendships outside of that. And I if I can say, I can't be grateful enough to God that He's placed me on this path, because I don't see myself anywhere else.
That is such a nice, inspiring story. It's incredible, really. I didn't even know. So what a lovely story. But Brittany, you also have an advocate for tuberculosis. And I know, you've got a story to tell about TB. And so please tell us. You've also been diagnosed with TB, eh?
Yes. So I am very vocal when it comes to speaking up about my TB, and just TB in general, because I don't want people to think that it's just a poor man's disease. Because I mean, hello, it affects anyone. It's an airborne disease. You can inhale it. If your immune system is down, that's when the mycobacterium takes over and forms, the TB in your body, the tuberculosis in your body. And I remember it was 2015, I sang my June exam, and funny enough, I'm actually singing this opera at the end of the year for CTO in collaboration with UCT Opera School, one of Alcina's most beautiful arias. And it's about 7 minutes of singing, just non-stop singing the entire time. And I remember singing it, and I was just like praying to myself, please, can you just get through these phrases? Like, I don't care if it doesn't sound technically correct. I just need to get. And when I walked out of that exam room, I was sweating bullets. I was sweating like someone who ran kilometers after kilometers. And I thought to myself, something's not right. I can get through 16 bars of singing without, I can snatch a breath here and I can keep going and I won't even sweat. I won't even break a sweat because it's second nature to me. And I remember telling my mom that I just feel extremely tired. I wasn't coughing. I never lost any weight. I just was extremely tired. Fast forward to December 2015, I collapsed after a production, and I just said to them, please phone my mom and call an ambulance. I'm not well. Tests after tests, they put me on intravenous cortisone. I swelled up to the size of, like a massive balloon, and that wasn't helping until they did a CAT scan. And Dr. Plecker, who works at Kells River Netcare, who was the one that diagnosed and treated me, said that there was a shadow on the X-ray, or on the CAT scan. X-ray first, and then we did the CAT scan with contrast. And then he said it could be one of two things. You either have a really aggressive lung cancer, or you've got tuberculosis. And I thought to myself, I would rather take the TB over the lung cancer, because as an opera singer, if you had to get that, they have to cut part of your lobe away from the lung. And how am I supposed to breathe after that? How am I supposed to sing? And then they did a biopsy, and it came back positive for TB. And that is when all the TB symptoms started. Extremely high fevers, headaches, this carried on for 2 weeks. And I remember when I started my TB medicine, I would become so ill. I couldn't eat. The only thing that I could eat was plain yogurt and pawpaw, and that was my diet for 2 weeks, because I had to take 5 really big, like size tablets like this every morning for 2 months, and then 2 tablets for 4 months to complete the 6-month TB regimen. And I remember thinking to myself, it's just like, why? And of all places, 4 centimeters below my vocal cords, it was making its way up.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, why me? And then I also thought to myself, but why not me? Maybe this is, a way to teach me to look after myself more, to really, really listen to my body as an artist when something says something's not okay. And I completed my 6-month TB regimen. And the doctors were so surprised when I went for my second bronchoscopy to see if everything was okay. He said, there is hardly any scarring. You have made a full recovery. And I was off to singing again. And I've sung better than I've ever sung before after the TB. And I mean, if it wasn't for constant prayer and a lot of support from family and the few friends that I had, because believe it or not, I lost quite a bit of friends because of the TB. And I was quite, shunned out from circles and stuff because we don't want to get sick from the girl who's got TB. I think I would not have made a very full recovery without the support that I had.
So, but where do you think did you contract it?
It must have been somewhere, maybe in the jammy bus that I took, sometimes to town or up to upper
That could
campus.
be anywhere.
Anyway, it could have been in a restaurant, could have been in a toilet cubicle that someone who was infected with TB coughed and I inhaled it. And as soon as my immune system was down, this thing just sat there. And the funny thing about it was I had latent tuberculosis. So it was there, but it wasn't active. As soon as they did the biopsy to send away what, to find out what was sitting there, obviously the little ulcer that had formed was broken open and the mycobacterium then went into my bloodstream. And that is when I started experiencing the night sweats, the weight loss, the nausea, the extreme tiredness, the fevers. And I thought to myself, and I thought, and I sat and I thought, but this is the most odd case of tuberculosis that I've ever heard of in my entire life.
Yeah.
Because normally, and my daddy, funnily enough, at the age of 21, because I was diagnosed at the age of 21, my daddy also had TB. And he had his in his lung. You can still see on the x-rays, there's like a little shadow or a little hole in his lung from where the TB sat.
Really?
And I just thought to myself, maybe this was just a way, to seriously, like I said, look after my body and to create awareness about tuberculosis and not be afraid to speak up about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Brittany, I think it's important to tell people, but TB is 100% curable. It's not a disease.
Definitely, if caught in time and if you complete your TB regimen, because if you don't do that, that is when you start getting the drug resistant and the multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. And then you have to be on TB medicine for longer than 2 years. I actually spoke to someone who had XDR tuberculosis who survived, who was still on treatment 2.5 years later. Really? After he was diagnosed. And he's looking much better now. Like, he showed me pictures of what he looked like, and I was shocked. He was hardly a person. He was just skin and bone. Yeah. And he said, I'm feeling better. And the doctor said that I'm almost there. I just need to take the last few months and then we'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's scary. But how can we address, so anybody who's watching this podcast, how can we address the stigma? And I think it's important to know that if someone is highly contagious with tuberculosis and they tell you, and you've been exposed to them, that you go to the clinic and get yourself tested as soon as possible and take, like a preventative measure. Mm-hmm. Another way to end the stigma is that if someone tells you, listen, I've got TB, I need support, it's not to shun them and say that you're dirty, because that is what I was told. I was dirty and that they don't want to be around me. Yeah. And to love the person, to support the person, to nurture them with good, healthy food, and also to go to, to TB seminars when there are actually TB seminars or webinars, and actually listen and educate yourself so that I can't just get TB if someone is wearing a mask and they've got active TB, because it protects them and it protects me. And I think the biggest thing is to eradicate that mindset of it's a poor man's disease. Yes, in the townships where people live very close to each other, where it can get very damp and very cold and very wet, people will most likely get TB, more often. But it has affected me, someone that's living in the middle class, just as much as that has affected someone that's living in a township. And I think when people start to educate themselves more and educate themselves better to be better people, when they are faced with such a situation, TB will be like anything like cancer that you talk about, or HIV/AIDS that you talk about. I think the misconception here is that people just don't understand it, and they don't take the time to fully educate themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's great for people like you who's actually going out and talking about it and educate people. And yeah. And also to be able to put a face to the disease and to say, but here you are and you're perfectly fine. You, like you said, you're singing better than ever.
Yeah, I have this saying that I shared in our TB group talk that we had, that I am not my disease. And I think the more you believe that, and that is what got me through my treatment and my healing process. She's like, I am not TB. TB happened to me, but I'm not TB.
Yeah. And you happen to understand the disease. And yeah, it's wonderful that you're helping other people.
Yeah, my mom is also, it helped because my mom is also a medical professional. She's a nursing lecturer, and she used to tell us all about these things. So for us, it wasn't anything strange. Like, it was a big shock that I got it. We were all like, ooh, but it wasn't anything strange because we were well educated enough to know what was going on.
Yeah, and that helps. So you at the Roodepoort Theatre till the 17th. That's right.
16th.
16th. Yeah. And then after that, what's next for you?
Then, so I fly out early morning on the 16th, and then I am home for a few hours, and then I swap suitcases and swap seasons, and I jet off to the USA.
It would. Okay, that's now I'm speaking to a real jet setter. Hey?
I do that, and then I go for a 2-week residency in the States, in New York, with the foundation called Balkanto Bootcamp, who I had the pleasure of working with earlier in this year. And they were quite impressed with what I, brought to the table in terms of singing. And they said to me, you know what, we would really like you to come and do a 2-week residency. You'll be exposed to new people. You'll be exposed to, international standard of working, different ways of working with people and conductors and singers. And I was quite surprised when Magdalene gave me the call. I was sitting in Israel. I remember I had to go and do something in Israel there, and in March, and she called me and she's like, are you sitting down? And I'm like, yes, I am. I'm in bed actually. And she's like, so they want you to come to New York. And I was like, what? And I started crying.
Oh.
I started crying because I was just like, oh, wow, someone recognized me, and someone, trusted enough that, I could get the job done. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's going to be an experience of a lifetime.
Sure. Well, good luck and enjoy. Have fun. And Brittany, that's the end of our interview. Thank you so much for making time to speak to me and telling your story. And believe me, we're going to follow your career, and it's really exciting. Please tell people, how old are you? Because you look like 12.
I'm 27 years old. I will be 28 in September. So ek is nog 'n babietjie.
Want jy lyk daar waar jy daar sit met jou Mickey Mouse hempie, jy lyk 12 jaar oud.
Dis die musiek, dis eintlik die musiek wat vir my jonk hou.
Wel, dan gaan ek nou onmiddellik begin opera sing. Okay. Dankie Brittany, and thank you so much, and all the best of luck.
Nuuspod. Onbevange, onbegrens, onbevooroordeel.